Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have to tell you, this is the kind of General Hospital story that grabs my attention from the very first minute. I've watched enough soap operas over the years to know that appearances can fool everyone, but something about Cassius has always made me uneasy. Just when I started thinking maybe there was still some good left in him, this latest preview turned everything upside down again. Folks, if these spoilers play out the way they look, poor Charles is about to face one of the most emotional weeks we've seen in quite a while. What really caught my eye wasn't just the possibility that Cassius could be caught kidnapping James. It was the way everything seemed to line up so perfectly. Cody spotting Cassius leaving the building with James in the parking lot didn't feel like a random moment to me. I've learned that on General Hospital, those quiet little scenes usually explode into something much bigger before the week is over. The look on Cody's face alone told me he knew something wasn't right, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he had just stumbled onto the beginning of a disaster. Then the preview became even more interesting. We suddenly saw John Oliver arriving with armed tactical officers while a helicopter hovered nearby. Now, that's not the kind of response anyone sends unless they believe they're dealing with a serious threat. The whole scene gave me chills because it looked less like someone searching for a missing child and more like a full-scale operation to stop a dangerous fugitive before he disappeared forever. I've got to say, General Hospital knows exactly how to make a parking lot feel more intense than a battlefield. Still, here's where my own opinion starts to pull me in a different direction. As strange as it sounds, I'm not completely convinced Cassius intends to hurt James. Over the past several weeks, I've watched him slowly reveal pieces of himself that Nathan never could. Yes, he's living behind a lie, and yes, he's made plenty of terrible decisions, but whenever James is around, I see something softer in him. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see a man who wants to destroy a little boy's life. That's exactly why this whole situation feels so heartbreaking. James believes he's spending time with someone he trusts, while everyone else is beginning to realize that Nathan isn't who he claims to be. Cassius may only be James's uncle by blood, but the bond they've built has felt genuine to me. Sometimes family isn't measured only by biology. It's measured by the moments people share, and I think Cassius genuinely treasures every minute he's had with that little boy. With Liesel finally completing the cold fusion process, it seems obvious that Cassius is preparing to leave Port Charles behind. If that's true, I can understand why he would want one final day with James before disappearing. Taking the boy to the baseball field almost feels like a promise he refuses to break. Well, I'll be darned, that doesn't sound like the actions of someone planning a cold-hearted kidnapping. It sounds more like a man trying to hold on to the last piece of happiness he'll ever have. Of course, intentions don't always matter once panic takes over. If the authorities believe Cassius is fleeing with James, nobody is going to stop and ask questions first. They're going to move fast, and that's exactly what the weekly preview seems to suggest. One misunderstanding could spiral into chaos within minutes, leaving everyone scrambling to protect James, while Cassius finds himself surrounded with nowhere left to run. The more I think about it, the more I believe this story isn't really about a kidnapping at all. It's about goodbye. Cassius knows James belongs with Maxie and Spinelli. Deep down, I think he understands that better than anyone. But saying goodbye to someone you've grown to love isn't easy, especially when you know you'll probably never see them again. And if that's the road General Hospital is taking this summer, I have a feeling this storyline is going to leave a whole lot of viewers reaching for the tissue box. The more I think about Anna finally telling Felicia that Nathan isn't Nathan at all, the more I believe this is the moment that changes everything. Up until now, people have been living with suspicions, unanswered questions, and little clues that never seem to fit together. But once Anna decides to speak the truth out loud, there is simply no turning back. I wasn't surprised that Felicia struggled to accept what she was hearing at first. Honestly, who wouldn't? It's the kind of revelation that completely rewrites months of memories. When you've trusted someone, laughed with them, and believed every word they said, it's almost impossible to suddenly accept that the man standing in front of you has been living behind someone else's face the entire time. Still, if there's one thing I've learned from watching General Hospital over the years, it's that Anna rarely jumps to conclusions. She has sharp instincts, and when she becomes convinced of something this serious, there's usually a mountain of evidence behind it. That's why I have a feeling Felicia won't stay doubtful for very long. Once she starts connecting all the strange moments that never quite made sense, she'll realize Anna wasn't trying to destroy anyone's reputation. She was trying to protect the people she loves before it was too late. To me, the biggest emotional punch isn't simply discovering that Cassius has been pretending to be Nathan. It's finally accepting that the real Nathan never came home at all. That's heartbreaking when you stop and think about it. For months, everyone believed they had been given a miracle, a second chance with someone they thought was gone forever. Families began rebuilding relationships, friends reopened old chapters, hope returned to people who had spent years grieving. Then, in one devastating moment, that hope could disappear all over again. In some ways, I think losing Nathan a second time may hurt even more than the first. At the center of all this heartbreak is little James, and I just can't stop thinking about him. Children see the world differently than adults do. James doesn't understand secret identities, international conspiracies, or complicated family histories. He only knows whether someone has been kind to him. From everything I've watched, Cassius has genuinely formed a bond with that little boy. Their time together has never looked fake to me. That's exactly why this situation feels so painful. Sometimes the strongest emotional connections exist even when they're built on lies, and that's what makes this storyline feel far more complicated than a simple case of good versus evil. I've been asking myself one question ever since these spoilers came out. What if Cassius really intends to do nothing more than keep his promise? Maybe taking James to the batting cages is exactly what he said it would be, a final afternoon together before disappearing forever. Maybe, in his own mind, he's trying to leave behind one happy memory instead of another painful goodbye. But life doesn't always give people the chance to explain themselves. Once the authorities begin closing in, everything changes in a matter of seconds. Fear takes over. Assumptions replace facts. Before anyone realizes what's happening, a simple outing can suddenly be viewed as an act of kidnapping. That's where Cody enters the picture, and I have to admit, I think he may become one of the biggest heroes in this entire storyline. The moment he spotted Cassius with James, I could almost see the wheels turning in his head. Cody isn't the kind of man who waits around hoping someone else will fix the problem. If he believes James is in danger, I fully expect him to put himself directly between that little boy and whatever threat he thinks is coming. Folks, that's both admirable and terrifying because brave people sometimes rush into situations without knowing the whole story. One split-second decision could change several lives forever. By the time every piece of this mystery finally falls into place, I believe Port Charles will never look quite the same again. Secrets this enormous always leave scars behind. Some relationships will survive, while others may never recover. Trust, once broken, is one of the hardest things to rebuild, and I think almost every family connected to this story will be forced to face painful questions about forgiveness, loyalty, and whether someone can ever truly make up for the damage they've caused. As for me, I think this storyline has all the ingredients of a classic General Hospital summer event. It has mystery, heartbreak, family conflict, impossible choices, and characters whose emotions feel real instead of simple. Those are the stories that keep me coming back year after year. No matter how this plays out, I don't believe we're just watching the end of Cassius's deception. I think we're about to witness the beginning of an entirely new chapter for everyone whose life has been touched by his secret. And somehow, I have a feeling the biggest emotional shock is still waiting just around the corner.